Welcome back to another Lab Notes, where we're going to dig into some 3D printing news that affects not only our home 3D printing labs, but beyond. And this past week, we had some pretty big news. If you haven't heard, MyMiniFactory, the website MyMiniFactory, has acquired Thingiverse, of all things. Now, it was finalized on January 30th, 2026. And while Thingiverse is not really been great, but when they were taken over by Ultimaker, it seems like it was just not that long ago, but August 2022, things did get better. It became a much nicer, easier place to go and find models. It was so difficult before. Hopefully, things will continue to get better. Now, MyMiniFactory has said that what their plan is, Thingiverse will be community-led, and they're promising that there will be polls and feedback, all of this to decide new features and policies going forward. Now, they haven't really announced anything about how creators might get paid, if that's going to be a thing like MyMiniFactory. How they're going to handle licenses, ads are a big thing, subscriptions. Over the years, a lot of people have left Thingiverse for printables and MakerWorld and things and all these different places. It's possible that this move, if done properly and continue on kind of the way Ultimaker had made things better, it's possible that this could revitalize Thingiverse. Who knows how this is going to go, really, but I wanted to get the news out to you just in case you didn't know. Now, hopefully this will bring more people back. I think it's great. Competition is, and finding more places to find great models, that would be great for all of us. But there's also the chance this could push more people away. We'll see. At this point, MyMiniFactory is saying that the sites are both going to stay completely separate, and I think we all know there's going to be some crossover. It's just, wait and see how it's going to happen. Hopefully, it's going to be for the better. I may not have been a big fan of Thingiverse in the past, although I did use them a lot because at one point they were really all we had, but they have gotten better, and I would hate to see it disappear. Now, next up, I did want to mention there's two different things that have jumped out at me this past week, both about resin printing. Tsinghua, I probably totally destroyed that. Tsinghua University in China, their DISH, D-I-S-H technology is supposedly 3D printing complex millimeter scale objects in 0.6 seconds, barely over half a second, in a single exposure, basically kind of hitting it and then the entire complex object. Now, granted, it's on a millimeter scale, but it's completely created. And instead of drawing layer by layer, they're projecting a 3D holographic light field into resin and just curing the whole shape at once. There's no moving parts. It uses a flat optical setup. So think lasers, but holographic.
You're my only hope.
What they're really targeting with all of this is micro robots, photonic chips, tiny camera parts, flexible electronics, and maybe even small tissue models, and I'm sure that's down the road. Yeah, this isn't your average benchy or articulated snake that we've been doing. Think about that, though. In the hours it takes us with our FDM 3D printers to print something, this is basically blink and it's done. And again, this is right now on the small millimeter scale, but that's going to be blown up, hopefully, before too long. And I'm a big fan of always saying we see the trickle-down effect, and it's just going to help us all eventually. Along that same line, Concordia University in Canada, they're using sound. Now, they're saying it's proximal sound printing. What that basically is focused ultrasound waves, and it's curing resin directly on soft polymers like silicone. And the reason they're saying that sound is great for this, because they're saying ultrasound can reach and cure materials that are so much harder to print with light or heat. And that way they can do things like flexible or opaque polymers that some of those others really can't. It's also giving them a really big resolution jump. They're able to move that sound source really close to what they're getting ready to print with, and they're saying that it features a 10 times smaller resolution than what they had previously been able to do, or other people have been able to do, with a sound printing method. So they're getting better consistency with lower power and 10 times better resolution. They're looking at using this in flexible sensors, soft robotic parts, and of course other tiny functional structures. And just like the other one from China, they're building complex microstructures in a single integrated process instead of the way we all do it in assembling, layer by layer. This is really showing us again what 3D printing is hopefully going to become. I mean, we're using light and sound, and we have resin, and we have our FDM filament and everything. It's getting pretty intense, and I mean, you add into all the building and stuff that they've been doing. I mean, how many times have we heard about somebody building a new structure with so-called 3D printing? But it's just getting amazing how they're doing all of that. Now, to contrast all of the amazing things, Bambu Lab has decided that they're going to stop manufacturing or selling the P1P as of February 10, 2026. Now, they're not dropping support overnight. There's many years coming from that, but if you're not familiar, the P1S, the Carbon X1, all of those are, as you go down, the P1S, and then the P1P is basically the non-enclosure version of the P1S, and they just came out with the P2S. They're saying spare parts and support is going to be promised until February 2031, so we still have a number of years. They're going to do firmware and bug fixes until late 2027, do security updates until 2029, and then there'll still be spare parts and support until 2031. So they have the new P2S. The P1S is still selling well from what I can tell. So keeping all three in production, especially with their prices continuing to drop, well, yeah, it just doesn't make business sense. And I understand it, even though, like, my son has a P1P. It works great, just as good as my P1S, but they've decided that's what they're going to do, even though there's so many people out there with them. And there's a lot of print farms that use those because of the inexpensive nature of a Core XY that they could get with the P1P. Just to let you know, if you have a P1P, you might want to start thinking about either, are you going to keep it for the long run, or are you going to try to maybe offload it and get something newer? If you're going to keep it, you're going to need to stockpile some parts and just make sure everything's ready to go for the future as long as it's going to stay running. This is, I think, a good chance for all of us to be thinking, that these things aren't going to last forever. I have some 3D printers that are just sitting in the closet because they're old, they're not supported, and while they may still print if I give them a little bit of love and figure out some of the issues, it's just not worthwhile. It's just something to think about as we go forward with these end-of-life type things that we see happening in technology all the time. And that's it. But, there's always something going on in 3D printing. Everything changes, even when we don't like it. But we can enjoy the process, continue to enjoy 3D printing, and continue to learn, create, and amaze.